Welcome to the Dare to Share Challenge. We've got another incredible guest joining me today as she takes to the stage and dares to share. If you're new here and you're wondering what you've stumbled across, the Dare to Share Challenge is part of the Real and the Raw Leaders movement. It's where we pull back the curtains, we remove all of the smoke and mirrors, we drop the facades, we drop all the pretenses, and we show the human behind the perception. Why? So that every single person watching realizes that all the people we look up to, all the people we idolize, all the people that inspire us, behind the scenes, they're really not that different to you and I. And if they can still show up for their dreams, go after their dreams, achieve their dreams, then so can you. So with that being said, welcome to the stage, Natalie Riede.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. Now, before we dive in, I always like to ask to set the scene. What made you say yes to coming on this challenge? Because it's not all butterflies and rainbows here, right? Like, we're getting down and dirty, we're diving into the depths of vulnerability, and it's not for everyone. So I would love to know what made you say yes to coming on this show.
Yeah, so I've had my own very big growth journey, and I realized that along the way that I need to be more vulnerable. I need to be more open and talk about the realness and the difficulties, because like so many times I compared myself to people's like Instagram stories and how great it is, and not thinking about, okay, well, my life doesn't look like that most of the time. And then I realized, well, actually the stuff that I've been posting has been really like inspirational and motivational, and look at my beautiful life, rather than being like, oh, at 2:00 this morning, I was sitting on the floor crying because I'm just so tired. Because I'm a mum of 2 kids. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, when I saw that, I was like, yes, this is the perfect platform for me to just let it all hang out.
I love that. Oh my gosh, exactly what you just said there. Like, we get so caught up in posting just the good stuff, just the glory stuff, just the success, and we forget that there's a whole other life happening behind the scenes. And the more women, the more leaders, I should say, because we have men coming on the stage as well, that come onto this stage and share the realness and the rawness and the vulnerability, the more that every single one of you guys that watches this realizes that actually we're all the same. We're all navigating exactly the same things. It's just about how much we share of that. So I love that. That's music to my ears. Okay, now before we dive in, I have to ask what level of vulnerability that you're going to be sharing with us today. So we have the stretchy level. None of it's easy. Let's just make sure that we're clear on that. We have a stretchy level, which is your journey, right? It's part of your hero's story. It's the things that you've overcome and how you've got to where you are now, and now you're the other side. Or we have the extreme level. And this is something that you're navigating, you're experiencing, is happening for you in real time right now behind the scenes. But where do you want to take us today?
So I would love to go with the stretchy level, because everything from that hero's journey is still impacting me like to this day. So it's kind of all together.
We love that. We love that. And you know what? Some people see this as a cop-out, and I want everyone to realize that it's not. Because every leader that comes onto this stage, I always ask them to stretch their own edge of comfortability, to stretch their own vulnerability, to showcase their own real and raw leadership, and step outside of their comfort zone. So make sure that you're aware that every single person on this stage is putting themselves up in a very uncomfortable position so that you know it's all possible. So with that being said, are you ready to dive in?
I am, yes.
Let's do it. Okay. It's like that heart flutter. I know. Everyone says that. It's the best adrenaline though. So Natalie, question number 1 is, what does being a real and a raw leader mean to you? And we're not just talking about business, okay? We're talking about the woman, the person, the individual. You said you're a mum, you know, the human behind the scenes who has a daily life that we might not be privy to on social media. But that realness and that rawness, what does that really mean to you in that everyday life?
For me, it is being unapologetically and authentically myself. Like, I make mistakes, like I'm doing the best that I can as a mom, but sometimes I do make mistakes, and I'm honest about it and I'm transparent about it, and I do apologize to my 3-year-old when I've like shouted because I've just had enough. And I think that this is important, like in business and in your personal life, that you own up to mistakes, but also that you just do the best that you can. And you're learning and you're growing, and not beat yourself up about things. There's no point feeling terrible about something that is done. You just have to draw a line on it and then move on, and prioritize like yourself and your needs and your happiness, so that you can come from a place of overflow and abundance. I recognize this in my journey as a mother, that like I was doing what you were supposed to do, like prioritizing the kids, and actually that was not working for me. So now I put my needs first, and I'm just a better mom and a better entrepreneur, a better partner for doing that.
Yeah, because you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
You can.
And how many mums, like, we are made to believe that we have to put the kids first. And obviously we care for our kids and we look after our kids and we love our kids, but you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to look after yourself first. That's why in planes they say put your oxygen mask on first.
Exactly. And you can't be a role model to your kids saying you can have everything that you ever desire if you are not like being a role model. Like if you are sacrificing everything for others, that's what they're picking up on, that people pleasing, that bending over backwards to make other people happy. I don't want that for my kids. I want them to go out there and take the world by storm, which means that I have to do the same.
Yes, amen to that. I love it. Okay, shall we move into the big question? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so for you guys watching, I never know what any of the speakers are going to share with us. I never give them any guidelines. All I say is I ask them to make it stretchy. So with that being said, Natalie, what are you willing to dare to share with us all today?
So what I would like to share is something that still gets me incredibly emotional to this day. And it is the catalyst for my journey of becoming a hypnotherapist and life coach. I'm actually a stage 4 cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with cancer completely out of the blue at 31. And it was like 4 months before my wedding. You can imagine, like, it was a really hard time. But after the cancer diagnosis, I actually almost died from complications from surgery. And I had a 1 in a million reaction to a painkiller that I was taking, which completely destroyed my immune system. So I woke up after emergency surgery and I was quarantined. And the doctors came to me and were like, "You're probably not going to make it. There's nothing that we can do." So I had just celebrated my 32nd birthday in intensive care. We postponed our big wedding and just did a small registry office wedding. And then a couple of months after that, after I'd finished chemo and all of that, I almost died. And the moment specifically that I'm remembering that I want to share, because it's impacted my life so much, is planning my funeral with my mum. I mean, you can imagine, I just turned 32 and being told that there was the real possibility I wasn't going to make it. And so I asked to be buried in the big wedding dress I thought I was never going to get to wear. We talked about music and I thought about my eulogy. And nobody should ever have to be in such a traumatic place. But in a way, it was a gift, because when I planned my eulogy, I was like, I have so many regrets. There are so many things that I wish that I had done. There are so many things that I wish that I had said, that I had been real and honest and authentic and not doing what I thought I should be doing. And that evening I had this epiphany of, if you want to go, you can, but it's not your time. And I had this like awakening And the next day when the doctor came to see me, and you can imagine, like, he brought in all of the students because it was a university hospital and I had a 1 in a million reaction to a painkiller. Like, I was an interesting case. So I had the room like full of people, and the doctor came in and he was being really serious. And he was like, Mrs. Riede, like, how are you? I'm like, I'm great. I've decided I'm gonna live. And he sent a therapist to me and a priest because he thought I wasn't taking it seriously. But I had made that decision that if I was going to survive, then I would do everything within my power to do so. And I kid you not, the next day he came back and was like, I don't know where this came from, but I've had this really amazing idea for like an experimental treatment. We're going to try and find a match for you and take like loads of their blood and then separate out their white blood cells and see if it will generate your white blood cell growth. Turns out my brand new husband was a match and it worked.
Oh my gosh.
So
wow.
That for me was like my awakening in this moment. And like, this is what I try and share with everyone, that you shouldn't have to go through something incredibly traumatic to realize that you've got one life. Yes. And if you were put in that position, would you have regrets? Because like from that moment, I was like, that is it. I am living life to the full. And yeah, that for me was just the hardest moment I've ever been through.
I can't imagine.
And even now, like 5 years later, you can see it gets to me every time when I think about it. But I think it's powerful.
I mean, powerful is not even a word. I'm sat in tears. I'm sure a lot of you guys are as well. But that's not the moral of the story, right? Let's be clear. As tragic and traumatic as that is, even I'm holding back the tears. Like, the message and the empowerment on the other side of that, of, like you say, Natalie, not having to get to a point, and it doesn't mean you have to be on your deathbed, but of despair, of, being at rock bottom, a lot of people would call it, to change. And that's something that I actually speak on a lot, because how many of us wait to hit that point to make a change? Yeah. What would be your one piece of advice to people who listening or watching who don't know how to change until they get to that point? It's like, okay, you say this, but it's easier to stay where I am, right? It's safer, it's more comfortable to be in the comfort zone.
Yeah. So I would say so many people get stuck in the comfort zone. This is one of the things that I work heavily on, is it can be really scary to step outside that comfort zone. And if you're not ready to do that, then start by expanding that comfort zone. Work out what is that next step that makes you feel a little bit like nervous, and do that thing. and then I always say to myself, because I do this as well, like talking on a YouTube channel, on a show, is so far out of my comfort zone, but I've been building myself up. And I always ask myself, after I've done the scary thing, did you die? No, you didn't. You're still here, which means the thought of doing it was worse than the doing. And you did it once. Now do it again, and do it again. And like, recognize that your power is all down to you and your mindset. Sometimes, like with me with the cancer, you can't control what is happening to you or in your environment, but you can control how you react to it. When I had no hope, when I thought that I couldn't do anything, I was so depressed. But actually that mindset, that shift of, well, what can I do? That is where your power lies. So I would say to you today, even when you're in your darkest days and in the worst experiences, what can you do for yourself to make you feel a little bit better, to achieve some small win, and celebrate that win, and then just build on it and build on it. And then before you know it, your comfort zone has expanded and you're at this next level of yourself. You've shed that old identity and you've stepped into it, and you're embodying that new version. just step by step. It doesn't have to be like all out bold, really scary. The step by step, that consistency, that's where the growth is.
Love that. It's like the compound effect, right? Just doing a little bit by little bit. It doesn't have to be all at once, like Natalie says. And I think a lot of us get caught up in that, where we think it's all or nothing, right? Like if I don't go all out right now, then I may as well not bother. And actually that is going to keep you more stuck because you're just going to be so scared of the big thing. I mean, if you can do the big thing, great, do it. But if that's too scary and too stretchy, little by little by little, like Natalie says, expands that comfort zone, so that suddenly your new comfort zone is something that the past version of you would have looked at and been like, hell no.
Exactly. And in that period of growth, being vulnerable and open and communicating to people what you're going through, that will change as well. Because when I was going through cancer and my depression, I didn't want to be a burden to anyone. I didn't want to bring anybody down. I didn't want to talk about it because then it would make it real. But then I was all in my head. And actually, by sharing what I was going through and then doing those steps and those actions, I inspired other people around me. I brought them along for the journey, and I didn't feel alone. And I think that that's so important, because when you do feel stuck and lost and directionless, you just feel so isolated. And there are people out there who will help you. You just have to open up and be willing to get a little bit vulnerable. Thank you very much. It feels surprisingly freeing just to like right on YouTube, but it's okay.
You know what? I always say sharing the things that are scariest, stretchiest, most vulnerable, it is a liberation of the soul. Because once we do that, it can't hurt us anymore. And then the sky's the limit. So I absolutely commend you for joining us on the stage, for showcasing your real and raw leadership, for sharing so vulnerably with us all today, and for showing what a real and a raw leader that you are. Can you please tell everyone where they can find you and how they can get into your incredible world?
Yes, I would love to. So it's Natalie Riede, Hypno Coach, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube. I am everywhere, baby. So
She's everywhere.
Whatever platform is, come and find me. Like, I share my story as a cancer survivor, as a mom, and I'm all about women's empowerment. And the core thing is that you just need to love yourself, and then everything else will fall into place, because you're going to have that confidence to go after what you want unapologetically yourself.
Absolutely. Amazing. All of the links will be in the show notes below. Go and find Natalie, go and get in her world. You're definitely not going to regret it. It is only going to empower you. And until next time, I will see you all on the Dead Share Challenge tomorrow. Bye for now.